Good morning. This is the Saturday morning interview. My name is Geoffrey Onditi. In December 2016, Nyamira Senator Kennedy Mong'are Okongo launched his bid for the presidency in the 2017 general election. He said that the decision was driven by his belief that Kenyans have been betrayed by subsequent governments since independence. Exactly 4 months to the August general elections, Senator Mong'are says he's ready to face off with other presidential candidates when the time comes. Today on the Saturday morning interview, I'm speaking with Senator Mong'are about his story so far and what he aspires Kenya to be. You can share your comments on our KBC English Service Facebook fan page, and we are asking, what attributes do you look for in a presidential candidate? What attributes do you look for in a presidential candidate? Welcome to the Saturday morning interview, Senator Mong'are.
Morning, thanks.
Senator, first of all, you want to be president of Kenya, but I want you to give a short biography of yourself. Who are you and why you want to be the president of the Republic of Kenya?
Senator Mong'are Okongo was born 47 years ago at Sirunga Village in West Mogrango constituency, Nyamira County. He went to his area schools in Sirunga Primary, Pasose Primary, then he did his secondary schools in Itibo Boys, Nyansabakwa High School, Tana Secondary School. Then in my levels, I was at Samira High School in KBC County. Thereafter, I worked as a correspondent briefly with the Kenya Times and the Standard.
So you mean you are a journalist also?
Yes. Later, I also graduated in diploma in mass communication and broadcasting. So then after I did my levels in 1989 at Summit High, and I've mentioned a number of schools I went to. You've heard me mentioning several secondary schools.
Yes, and I'm surprised.
I grew at the Sirunga Village, which was highly educated, the surroundings. As a young man in primary school, I could even, converse and chat with people who are doing A-levels. So gradually I grew to a very well-educated environment, and by the time I was in my Form 2, in fact in my Standard 7, I differed with one of the teachers in Sirunga Primary School who wanted me to remove an heavy sweater I was wearing, and that's a swampy behavior.
and it's very cold.
And it's very cold, and I was a very tiny young man. So I had to change the primary school to Pasose Primary, top of the hill. My training, especially in my A-levels, I did studies on Kiswahili, history, and cultural heritage. While I was doing my studies in, Kiswahili, fasihi ya Kiswahili, how it is, how communities are supposed to be set up, mambo kama thuruma katika jamii, and all those ills in society, which I started fighting then in Form 2. In fact, I was expelled from Nyansabakwa High School in my Form 1. I went to Itibo Boys. While I was at Itibo Boys sitting for my fourth form.
You mean you were expelled in Form 1?
In Form 1 from Nyansabakwa.
You were very young to be expelled.
Yeah, but I was enlightened and I was fighting against the ills of society. Due to the fact that I was enlightened in a way, I was accessing newspapers at a younger age. I knew the rights of pupils and students at a young age. But with the draconian administration which we had, which was imparting discipline anyway, I was expelled. I went to Itibo Boys for my Form 2. While I was sitting for my fourth form, I had to, do my exams from outside because I was suspended indefinitely at Itibo Boys. The result of which I paid dearly. I attained a Division 3, which didn't have a distinction. It didn't have combinations for me to go to A-levels. This took me back to secondary school. I had to go and repeat at Intana Boys High School, Intana Mixed Secondary School now, another new experience with the girls and all those things. I was the top student in 1987 from Intana Secondary School, which enabled me with my Division 2 of 20 points. It enabled me now to go to Samira High. At Samira High, now when we went to lead, we had matured enough, fairly matured. Now that I was studying humanities, I got to understand more about human rights. Yes. Which I fought again at the school. It cost me dearly also. I was indefinitely suspended to come and sit for my exams. At the results of 8-9, I didn't qualify directly to the local university. So for 1 year, I wanted to join the army. I went there temporarily and left. Then for some time, I had interest in law. Media, that was my passion. So I became a correspondent for Kenya Times around that time and the Standard from both KBC and Nyamira.
You joined the army briefly. Why did you join it?
It was one of my other passions. It was the in thing. It looks cool to be in the army. But I went there and I was changed. Instead of being a cadet officer, I was supposed to go in as a recruit because I had the information of the army. Then it couldn't fit me. So I left. I got a friend of mine who I requested. Get for me, I sent him my credentials to India. He sent me my academics papers to study law. But the university I went to only could admit me for Bachelor of Arts. Then I did political science, psychology, and philosophy. Then I sat for my second degree in law, which I graduated in 1998 instead of 97. What happened between there? I was the student leader at the university then in India, fighting for university interests. Then because of poor financial backgrounds, we could get leniency at the university where I was a student leader, the president of the CASA, Kenya African Student Union. But a new vice chancellor came in as we were supposed to sit for exams. He could not hear anything about poor students coming from Africa. He said every student must have registered at their opportune moment. So I lost a year because I had not cleared my examination fee. I couldn't afford that then.
Because you came from a poor background.
Because of my poor background. So it was 1997. So I had an opportunity also around that time because I had gotten a girlfriend who is now my wife.
Yes.
A girl of Asian origin who was then doing a master's at the university in medicine. So because she was working and she had a few stipends which could enable us to get a ticket, I wanted to come to bring her to Africa, show her where I come from, so that she can make a decision later. But the rest is history. She's my wife now. So I did I cleared 1998, got a second upper in law, came back. Then we were organizing ourselves for almost 2 years to go to law school. Then I was admitted in the batch of 2001. Immediately I had done my first sitting. We were doing almost 15 papers. I cleared almost 3/4 of the papers, but I failed other papers, like accounting and all of that. Then as a student leader, after coming back after 10 years, the state of West Mogarango constituency was deplorable. With the sort of enlightenment I'd gotten in India, infrastructure development, then I dropped out of law school to contest the West Mogarango parliamentary seat in 2002.
That is your constituency?
That's my constituency. I lost out of 8, aspirants. I became number 4.
But not very bad.
Not very bad, yes. Considering that I only had a budget of 150,000 shillings. Which I asked my wife to assist in, and then I had a small car. But then I was the Secretary General of the Republican Reformation Party then. So immediately I came back, I said I have to assist my people in one way or another. How do I get to the government? I went to Charity Ngiru, told her that I'm interested to join a party. I like her ideologies. I need her to mentor me. Then she put me to NAC, accepted me to NAC, and then I became a national organizing secretary in NAC. And also doing that an opportunity to assist our people, especially from the region. Every I took a number of kids to, MTC, hospitals like in the region who are really favored because politics of the way Kenyan politics space is political in nature. If you don't have anybody who can hold you politically, even if you voted, you cannot go nowhere. And around that time from 2002, I'd also created a sports agency. I was assisting athletes to go abroad, train them because my basic passion in sport is athletics. So that's how I moved as I prepared for the 2007 elections.
Did you contest in 2007?
Yes, in West Mogarango constituency. Out of now there were 12 people. I became number 3.
An improvement from the previous election.
And I lost because of parochial clan politics. Because I'd done what we did. I had taken kids to school. I was paying small fees to children, assisted women. I'd prepared a track record. But because of the way constituencies and now wards are based on clan lines, I lost. But I never lost hope. Then as we were ushering in the new constitution, 2010, I canvassed for the passage of the constitution. I spent my own resources in enlightening the people of Nyamira. I looked at the constitution deeply and looked at what position will fit me. I knew the governors were going to be powerful, but those are villagers, according to my understanding. I had young children. My children, 3 children were young. And my wife, as a PC, sort of Mother Teresa, whose passion is to treat, I said, let me pep seat. Yes. And the only position which can allow me pep seat is to become a senator. With the huge responsibilities, but I'll be in Nairobi, go to Nyamira, and fight for the interests of our people. So the constitution passed, as I told our people, and then I had done a lot of work I'm an educational crusader. I had done a lot of work for 3 years preparing myself to become a senator. So within 2 years with that elections, I knew I'd won the Senate because my name was bigger than me in the villages. Going to 1,000 schools, giving books and stipends of what over 70 million from my meager resources. So I won the elections of 2013 in a landslide.
70 million is not small money.
Yes, it's not small money or big money either. It's the way you spend it. I had created 3-4 companies, construction company, my sports agency, my rural farm. Getting those monies because I didn't have that money at a lump sum. And also engaging on corporates. Jomo Kenyatta Foundation, I engaged them every and they gave me books worth millions as part of their corporate social responsibility. The Literature Bureau and some other publishers. So cumulatively, I didn't give this money per se. The money I spent was other for logistics and other things. So I won, as I've told you in a landslide, to become the Senator of Nyamira. And in my campaigns, if you go to my archives and get clips and all the documentations, I was telling the people of Nyamira that I only need 5 years. Some of them wouldn't understand. Because the nature of our politics is that we are liars. You say you want a term, when you've gone there, you start coming begging, give me a pension. So my eyes were set elsewhere other than the Senate.
So you are completing your 5-year term because you promised the people of Nyamira that you'll serve them for 1 term.
I promised them that I'll serve them for 1 term because I also had other interests.
Yes.
To go elsewhere.
And this interest is becoming the president of the Republic of Kenya, is it?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I said, let me just go and see the legislative agenda. Let me go see how parliament works. Let me go and interact with the best of the best. The opportunity I've had as a senator, I've had the opportunity to interact with the best of the best in the political elite. Interacting with the Senator Emeritus Amos Wako, Senator One, Gigi Kariuki, interacting with the Anyang' Nyong'o, Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, interacting with Kareto Murungi, interacting with the young lads like Omar Hassan, Mutura Kronso Jr. For me, it was a learning experience. So my interactions, even those with members of the National Assembly, was a learning experience. So I have outlived the Senate and I've outlived Parliament. If you look at the hierarchy of our political setup, the Senate is number 4. The governors are like number 12. But the hopelessness and despondence I've seen, and the only way you can midwife this nation is to be at the helm.
This is the Saturday morning interview. Today I'm speaking with Senator Kennedy Mong'are, who wants to be the president of Kenya. He says his experience in the Senate has enhanced his profile as a public officer and therefore he can lead Kenya. You can share your comments on our KBC English Service Facebook fan page, and we are asking, what attributes do you look for in a presidential candidate? Did you have that ambition to be the president of Kenya even before you became a senator?
When I was in Standard 7, I've told you I got to read newspapers at the age of Standard 7. In fact, I remember, I was circumcised in 1977. I remember when Mr. Kenyatta died, the whole country was in a somber mood and there were dark crowds, Then I admired Moi, who became president, he looked very handsome, That was when I had circumcised. But when I was in this Standard 7, even when I was in Ntana High School, Ntana Mixed Secondary School, if you get students from that school, they were calling me President. I didn't know how this name became, but now my focus and the kind of knowledge I have and information I have, I think I fit the bill to be the president of the Republic.
When you want to be president of the Republic of Kenya, I'm sure you have plans for this country and the challenges that this country is facing. As president, what change do you want for this republic?
The party now where I'm the party leader, the National Liberal Party, has a manifesto based on 5 points. The first one, we're talking about basic needs, provision of water, food and medical services. Then the other agenda, which is number 2, where we talk about family values, unemployment, corruption, we have to get rid of this monster called corruption. I think I have a plan to fight corruption heavily. 1, I don't have a corrupt past. When I look at the ruling regime of Jubilee and you look at the opposition, if you go to the archives, these fellas who are masquerading as the angels to get Kenyans to the third and final reparation have rotten bones in their closets. because I've interacted with them, I have had an opportunity in Parliament to get information, which really is huge for me to tell Kenyans that if they want a leader, they need a leader who will lead them to the third and final operation, but he must be fresh, strong in mind, focused, and with a plan.
And you believe you are that fresh mind?
That's the fresh thing for Kenya. The national property through Senator Mong'are Bokongo, this is the way to go for Kenyans. If Kenyans can remove their heads in the sand like the proverbial ostriches and face realities, and they stop living in denial. You know, Kenyans are living in denial. They pretend that they are okay. But things are worse. Things are terrible in this country.
Let's focus on corruption. Corruption has been the main challenge for Kenya's development since 1963. How is President Okongo going to change this?
One, I have a clean slate. I've never worked in government other than parliament. I have no closets, rotten closets in my corrupt closet, skeletons in my closet where the mandarins of corruption can hold me hostage. This is what happens. That's one. Secondly, as a lawyer, I know how we need to deal with issues because you see the way of corruption is fought in Kenya. For instance, the police and the judiciary are not the only corrupt institutions. Government has spent lots of money saying we're rearing police officers who we give very old, rotten notes. They are saying they're dealing with judicial officers. That is just like removing a small finger and then you say you fought the cancer of corruption. I have a plan that I'll be empowering as president. We'll empower the National Intelligence Service to have a huge capacity. And then there's a small agency at the Attorney General's chambers called Asset Recovery Unit. That unit will be expanded to be Asset Register and Recovery Authority, so that any Kenyan who attained the age of 18 from the 2010 Constitution can have his assets within a timelines with that register. The beauty of it is that for the last 15 years, most thieves, and I thank them, have invested in Kenya.
Yes.
Unlike the old order where thieves were stealing money to take in Chelsea, Switzerland, the thieves for the last 15 years have invested in Kenya. That's why you're seeing many buildings, you're seeing funny vehicles. That's the beauty that all the ill-gotten wealth is within Kenya. So with this asset register and recovery authority, every Kenyan must register. Even there are minors who are doing manual jobs, they register under guardian. Our constitution gives us under Article 35 right of information. Article 12 talks about right of information. If you are my MCA and I want to access your asset register, I need to go to the relevant officer. The Jubilee regime, to give it credit a bit, they have created their Duma centers, which are really crawling to work. By the time they are well encompassed, if I want to know DT's asset register, because you are my MCA or you are my MP or as a citizen, I go to this officer, I tell them I need to access this register. Then the officer there, or you don't even have to go to the officer now, because at that time we'll also be moving to information superhighway. You click in that particulars, you put, even your photo is taken, then you access these assets of these individuals. So those are the kind of ways, in so doing now, with the capacitating of the National Intelligence Service, it is easier now to follow up every individual. And for your information, Kenya does not have more than 7,000 thieves. I've done my statistics. The thieves who are holding Kenyan hostage are not more than 7,000. Initially, they were around 3,000. Now with the counties, because most thieves in the counties are those CECs, so-called ministers, chief officers. So the thieves in Kenya, because I know of the statistics and the kind of money involved, are not more than 7,000. So it's easier to get rid of these 7,000 people and let the people go free.
I want you to focus on Kenya's relationship with other countries, especially the East African community, because the president is the image of any country. So how are you going to relate with other East African countries, for example, to improve the East African community, for example, to improve the AU and others?
Very good question. The tragedy in this country, do you know that Kenya does not have a foreign policy, legally documented foreign policy? Do you know that we don't know our relations between, you cannot go to the bookshops, our kids, or even university students who are researchers cannot walk to a bookshop and get a book based on law on Kenya-Uganda relations, based on law on Kenya-Tanzania relations, based on law on Kenya-Sudan relations. You know, this is the biggest tragedy. And you see people masquerading that they were foreign ministers in the successive regimes and even the current regime. Our first priority as a government will be to document and enact our relations with the friends and enemies, if there are. For instance, you've seen many Kenyans dying. The recent one is in southern Sudan, where people have been brutalized, tortured, maimed for no good reason. What does the government do? Stories from the foreign ministry. Those are issues when you have a documented foreign policy. There's something called reciprocity. You expel the ambassador. Kenyans are jailed in China. China is the biggest investor in this country. We say if they are criminals, fine, let them come. They don't lose all their rights. We exchange. We have Chinese conmen in the jails here. We exchange, swap, so that these people with their remaining rights, they can serve at home. So we'll create a foundation of the foreign policy which is not there, and then we create how we relate with our country, so that every successful regimes, if you are a minister of foreign affairs, when you go to the office, the chief legal officer of the ministry will be teaching you about the foreign policy. Look at, for instance, another damning thing about these people who are masquerading that they want to take leadership. The Lake Victoria is in the court region. The leader of court has connections to Germany and all over. The recipient of the Lake Victoria waters is Egypt, a fair industrialist country. What has stopped them from asking for support to deal with the hyacinth? The hyacinth thing is just left because of political bankruptcy and self-interest. Now the lake is dying, but Egypt, the biggest beneficiary through the Nile, can give support. The people in the opposition who say they have connections can even ask our bilateral donors to deal with those issues. So we'll enact a sound, sober foreign policy.
Yes, I know we'll continue talking more about your policies in the future, because there's still time up to the election day, that is 8th August this year. But finally, how is your campaign strategy? How are you going to cover the whole of Kenya in order to reach every Kenyan, to convince that Kenyan that he or she should give you his or her vote?
I am going to venture into the information spyway. Now, we have almost over 14 to 15 million Kenyans who have phones. We'll be sending messages. Secondly, in the course of the month, or in the course of the end of the month, after I've unveiled my deputy, who in Sense is a woman, and she comes from Western Kenya, we're going to have a call of duty for 1 million frontiers who will register with us and then campaign for us. And when I have opportunities, I'll be going to villages. I'm not going to go to do crusades like you think people are madmen calling meetings, big meetings, where youths who come hungry, youths who come unemployed. I'm going to engage on town hall meetings on counties, and especially I'm going to exploit the advancement in the information superhighway.
Thank you very much, Senator Mong'are, for your time, and I wish you the very best. I know we'll find more time to talk about your ambitions to be the President of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, and you know now that we only covered out of the 5-point agenda, we've covered 3. Yes. So we have 2 more to go.
Yes, definitely we'll cover them.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. And with that, we come to the end of the Saturday morning interview. Today, I've been speaking with Senator Kennedy Mong'are Okongo, a presidential candidate in this year's general election. It's exactly 4 months to the August 8th general election, and we are asking, what attributes do you look for in a presidential candidate? You can still share your comments on our KBC English Service Facebook fan page. Till next week, my name is Geoffrey Onditi.